Hello, and welcome back to our video series on cloud security, the software-defined perimeter, and zero trust. I'm Jason Garvis, principal at Numberline Security and co-chair of the Zero Trust Working Group at the Cloud Security Alliance. In the final part of our series, we're going to be talking about getting started with your zero trust journey. The metaphor for zero trust is a journey, and if only it were as simple as the picture shown here, with a pathway that someone's already created and a simple left or right decision, both of which take us towards zero trust. Clearly, this is not the most apt metaphor. This picture here is a little bit closer. We have a complicated set of interchanges for the interstate highway system. It's very fast moving, it's potentially a little bit dangerous, but we're still in this example going down roads and pathways that people have created for us. And there are literal guardrails to keep us in place. I think the most apt metaphor perhaps is this, and hopefully there are some other Wallace and Gromit fans out there who will recognize and remember this. And the thing about zero trust, and I think we can all empathize with poor Gromit, who is traveling at a high rate of speed and has to lay down track as he goes, is that zero trust as a journey has a lot of things in common, shared across all organizations and all zero trust initiatives. There's common principles, there's common approaches, but every organization is different. And I think it's up to you as a security professional to understand and learn not just how you might approach zero trust, but what's the best way to do it for your organization? What are your organization's priorities and needs? What are your areas of strength and weakness from a technical and infrastructure perspective? And what are your business priorities? The last piece is, I think, really important, is that as security professionals and as technical professionals, and I certainly count myself as one, we love talking about security. We love talking about technology. We don't always have the opportunity or the skills or the comfort level to step outside that and engage with our business counterparts and really understand what is it that our organization is doing as a mission. Are we a for-profit company? How do we make money? How do we drive new revenue? In what ways can this security strategy enable business initiatives? And that's really important because zero trust requires change across the organization, not just technology and infrastructure change. And getting business people and getting your business leaders on board with the changes that you're making is probably the most important thing you can do toward ensuring the success of your zero trust initiative. The thing about zero trust, of course, is as a security strategy, it by definition is broad in scope. It encompasses pretty much everything that your organization does that's digital these days. So it is very complicated and it can be overwhelming. And if you don't approach zero trust, I would say properly and incrementally, you can really struggle. You can end up with an initiative that gets stalled, that only delivers minimal or very tactical benefits, and you can end up with organizational pushback and other bad outcomes. So we really recommend that you want to build support, not just in the IT and infrastructure teams, not just within the security teams, but across the business audience as well. Really grow awareness and the need for in that audience of what zero trust is, why it's important, and why it should be important to them. Why should they care? What are the areas for the business that are pain points or areas of opportunities, whether it's improving a process to reduce friction, whether it's improving the end user experience that's frustrating or hampering people, whether it's securely enabling the adoption of new technology so the business can create new revenue streams or do things that they've never done before. Ideally, what you'll do is you will define business value that your initiative, that your zero trust initiative can deliver. And that's how you get supporters outside of security and IT. And that's how you make sure that you do have the capability, the juice, if you will, to make these changes, overcoming obstacles and people who may not want to change. There are some prerequisites that you need, and having some level of executive sponsorship is important because not everyone loves change and not everyone's going to be happy with changes. But when you have executive sponsorship and some of the budget that's associated with it, you will have the ability to do that. Now, it doesn't come for free and you can't beat people over the head until they agree with you. You need to have built that support and built the enthusiasm among the non-technical individuals and business people to make these changes. You do need to have a reasonable level of identity management maturity, and you need to have known identity maturity. What I mean by that is you shouldn't have blind spots. You should have a realistic assessment of, we do this part of identity well, we do this part not so well, and really just get a clear picture of that. You also need to be doing a reasonable job at the information security basics. Do you have patching in place for your endpoints and your servers? Do you have MFA in place, at least partially? Do you have a backup and recovery process that you've tested in the case of ransomware? If you're not doing those things, no, please prioritize those before you try to do something that's a little bit more advanced. And you need to have, an admittedly imperfect but good enough visibility into your network asset inventory. You don't have to have a perfect picture because you can pick and choose. In fact, we do recommend that you start small with an initial set of network resources, but it was hopefully not the Wild West on your network. There are also some non-prerequisites. You don't need to have a complete and high-performing and well-run identity management program. It'd be great if you do, but imperfect is okay. You don't have to have complete visibility into what's on your network and what should be communicating with what. Again, we're going to recommend starting small and building on that. You certainly don't have to have an unlimited budget, and you don't have to have the ability to make unilateral decisions or changes to your networking teams. Unless you're the CEO of an organization, you're not going to have the unilateral capability to do anything. And even then, most CEOs have to take advisement and make compromises. The key here around Zero Trust is that it is multidimensional, and you have to work hard to build support across the organization, across the IT and networking and infrastructure team, and across the lines of business whose end users are going to be participating in this. So let's explore one on-ramp, one starting point for Zero Trust. In this case, we're talking about cloud migration. Now, there are multiple flavors of cloud migration, and we don't really have time to go into them here. I talk about them in my book, Zero Trust Security. But no matter what you're using, Zero Trust has a role to play, no matter which type of cloud migration you're taking. And if we think about this at a very high level, we're going to use the NSTAC report 5-step process around this. So if we think about step one, defining the protect surface. So in this example, we're migrating certain data or application assets up into a cloud environment. Great. What does that environment look like? And how are they accessed, right? Do they have web interfaces? Is it a database? Is it some sort of other application interface or API? What is it that we want to protect? Why are we prioritizing that particular access method as opposed to something else? Second, mapping the transaction flows. Okay, great. Let's say it's a web application. Fantastic. That's running in an infrastructure as a service cloud environment. How do my users get to that? Where's that network traffic going? Is it exposed to the internet? We hope not. Are they connecting to it over some sort of wide area network? Is there some sort of remote access tool sitting in front? Are they going through other cloud environments? Mapping that out and understanding that is the key second step. Third step is building the Zero Trust architecture. So given that network topology that you built out from the transaction flows, where are the policy enforcement points on the network? Where should they be deployed so that they can control access to those cloud resources? What identity provider or identity providers are you going to use? Fourth step is creating the Zero Trust policy. Given all that, okay, fine. How do we now determine who needs access to that particular application interface or data? And under what conditions and from what types of devices? How do we build a policy that can help us validate that? What types of identity management attributes, such as group memberships, can and should we use? What type of device posture checks can we use to validate? Can and should this access be tied into a business process, or do people need access all day, every day? These are all great questions for us to think about as we look at this cloud migration on-ramp. And finally, monitor and maintain. This is the operational phase of Zero Trust. Clearly, you want to log and measure and track how this is being accessed, and also determine certain metrics that warrant improvement. Maybe it's networking metrics such as latency or throughput or availability. Maybe, probably better, it's user experience or things that are tied to, let's say, the types of assets or the breadth of assets that people have access to to try to narrow those down over time. So this has been a very brief overview of getting started with Zero Trust. And we explained a little bit some of the motivation, the importance of building a consensus and getting supporters across these non-technical infrastructure, non-technical teams. And we explored one of these on-ramps around cloud migration. So we only had time to scratch the surface here. I hope it was useful. If you want to get more information and go a little bit deeper, you can visit the website at numberlinesecurity.com, and you can reach out to me as well on LinkedIn. Thank you very much.